So now that we know what a body of work is and what are the initial steps to planning a body of work or the components that it takes, we need to talk about why is it important, especially in the K-12 environment classroom. So creating a body of work is important because it provides the student an alternate way of thinking and exploring, as opposed to just having a prompt for an assignment and they complete it and they mark all of these boxes and check that they've completed all of these different goals. It's more of an open-ended process. And so they're having to explore and not just wrap things up with one piece. It's not a one and done. So it requires them to explore and think in a different way than they had before. It also encourages to create new solutions to old and new problems. So whereas before they would have an assignment and they would find one way to approach it, within a body of work, there's usually multiple ways and options on how that can be approached. And they're going to encounter issues along the way that they're going to have to resolve. And that problem solving is an integral skill for them to develop. The exploration of the whole process improves the application of what is learned. So you can teach a student a skill and they can work on a project that completes that skill, but if that skill is being utilized through a body of work, that skill is not only going to improve, but they're going to find new and interesting ways to use that skill, to use that medium, or to use that application of medium. Creating a body of work also unlocks high-level critical thinking, which is integral for any artist to be able to dig deep and really go past the surface area ideas. We talk about how to a body of artwork in class. Whenever they're going to approach a body of work, they go to these first few things that they think of and they want to latch onto that and go. But creating a body of work that is extensive, truly exploratory, and authentic to them requires them to go way below like the surface level and dig deeper. And that's the type of thinking that we need them to do in a lot of different areas of their lives. So this artistic process of creating the body of work is very similar to a method they already are familiar with, which is being the scientific method. This is a great way to compare what they're doing in one class and how it can apply to your class and how it can really help them evolve from a general idea to an investigative study. We have a download available on this Pro Pack that we're going to walk through, and it shows how the artistic process and the scientific method are actually very similar. So if you'll look, the scientific method is shown on the left, and we have the artistic process, and they both start with almost like a question. So the scientific method asks a question, whereas the artistic process, you find your inspiration. What's your topic going to be? What is something that's exciting you? What is something that you have a lot of questions about or interested in? And so then the next step is research for both. You're going to research on the scientific end, and then you would research also on the artistic end. You're going to look at different ideas, methods, and techniques that can help express your idea. Form a hypothesis on the scientific method is about the same as brainstorming and practicing techniques, because you're really just kind of guessing and trying to just take what you do know and come up with a general idea about it and how you can approach that. Of course, once you create a hypothesis, you have to test that and you have to experiment. And for the artist, that experimentation comes in the actual creation of the work. The first few attempts may not produce the results that they want, but that's why it's a process. So they just keep on going until they find a process and a style or a technique that works for them. And that body of work can have multiple processes and techniques because that's part of the story. Observe your data and draw a conclusion. Reflect on and revise work. It's really important for artists to be reflective, the same way scientists have to go back and look what they've learned and see what else they can come up with based on those answers. It's very integral for an artist to be able to do that, to look at their work, be able to talk about it, decide what they liked, what they would like to improve upon, and go from there to make any adjustments needed as they progress. And lastly, once you've made a discovery and you've worked through the research and you have a product you're proud of, you report your findings. And that's going to happen for both the artistic process and the scientific method. So, when the scientific method, that might be a document, a paper, that's put together with sources cited. It's the same as for the artist process, except it's going to be more visual. You're going to have images, you're going to see process sketches. You'll probably should have some written components as well. But the next step is actually presenting that work and waiting on the response of the people around you. And a lot of times that response will give you an indication of whether you really explored that topic and made the conclusion something that's relatable to the people around you. Next, we're going to talk about how you as the art teacher can help facilitate that for your students.